So, I mean, you have heard sessions since morning. So I was thinking, what different could we do that has not been discussed yet, right? But then I realized, I mean, the panelists that we have, not just in this session, but the session after this, are right at the center of what the conversations have been around, right? If I had to pick three axes which are important from any organization's perspective, the highest investor interest is in the data and AI space right now. From customers, it is a talking point right now, data and AI, and how do we transform. From talent perspective, if you ask people where do they want to work, companies like Databricks, like Fractal, would be on the top of the list right now, right? So I'm going to angle to that and see how different we can be, and in terms of what we speak, right? Just a bit of context before we start also. I have spent 20 years in or working with tech services companies, right? When I started, I was into manual testing, software testing. And the biggest thing at that point of time was automated software testing and how can I get into that, right? From that to now, where we are saying, why do we need humans for testing at all? We have come a long way. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm a very big advocate of the tech services industry. I believe it will continue to grow in a different manner, different models, but it is going to continue to grow. But for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be a devil's advocate here, right? And I'm going to raise questions. Just raise questions. After that, it's up to you. What do you make of it? Of some things that are currently there in the market right now, right? And I hope you'll be as honest and open as possible in the forum. First question, a very, very basic question I'm going to start is GenAI real? Right? I mean, both you, Jason, and as well as you, Pranay, come from different perspectives in terms of you are at the center where you're seeing clients talking about it, investing it, transforming into it. But how real is it? Right? We already heard the MIT study been quoted twice today on the 95% while it's failing. So I'm going to start with you, Pranay. How real is it? How much of it is on paper? How much is POC? How much is insights?
So I think I'll ask a question back. How real is electricity? How real is the internet? How real is the mobile phone? Did they change the world? Okay. And I think AI is going to change the world in as profound a way, if not more. I think everything that we know, everything that we do as businesses, but that I think is a small part. I think as humans, everything is going to change. Okay. And I'll start with some, small examples here. There is a pretty substantial amount of content out there on YouTube now, which we are consuming, unaware that it's AI generated, the voice is AI, and we're consuming that content. And if you watch closely, you will know that actually it's not human generated. Okay, so it's impacting us. My kids, they're preparing for their test. And so they have some sample questions. They go into ChatGPT and type, okay, the question, said, give me another 10 questions like this to practice, right? We have a subsidiary called Cure.ai, and Cure provides diagnosis on chest x-rays in under a second for $1 scan at 99% accuracy. It's touching 32 million lives right now. It's already touched 32 million lives for lung cancer, for tuberculosis, and so on. And so these are just some small ways in which this is, AI is already part of our lives, whether we experience it or see it or not. And I think it's going to be in business, going to transform business in very, very big ways. I can give you some examples. It's a client of ours in the wealth management industry with about 300 salespeople. And together with them, we have created this sales assist. And the sales assist now tells them what to sell, to which financial advisor, how to sell it. And just in the first 12 months of implementation, they generated about $600 million of incremental assets, right? Or there's a client in the healthcare space where a big cost element is in-home nurses, nurses that go home to patients' home and take care of them. And Gen AI application is helping these nurses get a lot more effective, getting them much better prepared for those meetings in-house and translating to maybe 15% fewer ER visits. Or in the consumer space where we're working with a client to generate new concepts on products, and things that would take like 3 to 4 months to generate are now getting generated in a couple of weeks. So it is profound, it is big. The thing though is that it is very messy. And if you need to get impact from AI, what is really required is to first have clarity on purpose. What am I trying to solve for? What does great look like if AI is in the mix? And then have the ability to get into the messy details of the process and bring all of that into AI. Ultimately, AI is the tool. The outcomes that you seek, the business problems, the how we can make lives better for customers, for employees, for partners, shareholders, all of that stuff is what it is. And how does AI come into the process, make that better? So starting with a value-based approach, starting with a decision backwards approach, and I think when companies tend to do that, that's when success is more likely. But starting with a technology forward approach or a data forward approach is where I think we end up with a lot of disappointment. So that's my short answer to your question.
If you have to make it even shorter, right? How much percentage terms, if I ask you, are customers seeing real impact today, as of today, using Gen AI?
It's obviously very hard for me to comment on the overall universe, right? I mean, you have the report, which is now saying 95% are failed or whatever. But I can tell you that, we're working with about 100 Fortune 500 clients. And we're doing a lot of project work for them across a whole range of things that go from new product innovation to better customer engagement to driving operational efficiency, whether that's in marketing, sales, or production and manufacturing, better decision-making, disruption, all of that. And I would be actually, I would say actually that number is reverse. It's probably 95% impact and maybe 5% failure. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Jason,
I would jump in on that though, real quick, and say, I wonder where those numbers come from a standpoint of who are they asking that question of, and who are they working with to deliver those projects, and to the extent that it is, I'll just say random people throughout their own organizations that are trying to self-implement or deliver those types of projects. That's where they're getting a sense that 19 out of 20 of these things aren't working. But when they're working with Fractal or they're working with one of their trusted advisors, those are the projects that tend to work much better because they're bringing the expertise and they're bringing a vision that they can work through. That would be my hypothesis on that.
So you have probably in a stage where it's one stage before the implementation, right? People are probably investing a lot in data, in infrastructure for AI, but not maybe realizing the effects. Do you hear about that? That are we investing a lot more than that is required in infrastructure that is for data and AI?
I'm not sure I followed the question.
I'm asking, right now people seem to be over leveraged on the infrastructure part.
Okay.
So is that what you also see?
People are over leveraged on their infrastructure.
As they're investing
Over investing in infrastructure, not investing enough in use cases.
Not investing in the use cases.
In applications, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that could be the case if technology providers are out there trying to get them to buy, and they're trying to, find ways to make things more attractive, whether they're in some cases, buying the business, I would say is a term that we often hear. I could see how, there's more focus on building the infrastructure that's there, but I think one of the earlier points that was made by the panel was that it's impossible for you to achieve your AI strategy without your data being ready, your data estate being ready. So there absolutely does need to be a little bit of you can do proof of values. I like that term much better to demonstrate that this can work for us. But ultimately, if you're going to do it at scale, you need to invest in the right infrastructure and have the right data. Otherwise, you won't be able to achieve your outcomes at scale.
Got it. Sure. And coming to the next part of our discussion, right? I mean, we have heard throughout the panel today that we heard Ravi speak about it that 50% of the code will soon be generated by GenAI. So if GenAI is going to generate code, if it is going to test code, if it is going to deploy code, how does it affect the services model as we know it today, right? I mean, largely leveraged on T&M, some fixed cost. So how do you see it evolving, let's say, over the next 5 years because of this?
Yeah. So I think if you look at a typical software development lifecycle or whatever, there is this component of product vision or and then the specs generation, the design. Then you've got development, you've got testing, deployment, maintenance. And if you look at the middle two parts, which is the development and the testing, which is where the maximum amount of programming is taking place, and that's probably about 50-60% of a project work. I think it's absolutely correct. We're going to see efficiencies to the extent of 50%. I believe they're already being generated. Okay, and that means that you're talking about 30% more efficiency. I think a couple of things. Okay, one is that design is probably going to become a lot more important. Okay, then getting into user requirements and the outcomes and all of the creativity around that, I think that's going to become a lot more important. And then potentially, I think consumption is going to increase because I don't know of any client who doesn't say that they have a massive backlog of stuff to finish. So there is a constant stream of things to do, things to improve, and so on and so forth, right? So I think that's all there. From a talent perspective, you did ask about the pyramid, I think, right? But I think that is going to get flattened. I think there's going to be a significant flattening of the pyramid. And I think there'll be more and more need for hands-on programming and designing and developing. And I think that the overall role of managing, I think that will reduce. So I do believe that the pyramid is going to sort of, get reduced a little bit. And to your earlier question, and it's kind of related to this, which is you said, are people investing a lot more in infrastructure before they're getting into the use cases? I think that there is a tendency to do that because we are probably leading on the AI side more with a technology mindset than with a business mindset, right? And you'll often, we hear very often, at least earlier and not so much today, that we need to get our data ready. And the problem with that is that the data will never be fully ready. That's not going to happen because you're always going to have something new to do with that, right? And you have to move on both parallelly. And therefore, the aspect of bringing in business outcomes and value right in the front before leading with technology, I think becomes important in the case of AI especially.
Got it. So Jason, you work with a lot of partners on this, right? So do you see that partners are aware of this change that is happening and are proactive right now to evolve their business models or their offerings? Is that what you see, or you see there's a lot of work still to be done on that?
Absolutely. We see the market is evolving quickly. We see service providers changing their models, changing their sales messages, and the way they're approaching business outcomes. That's absolutely happening every day in our business, and we don't think that's going to slow down. We're going to continue to try new ways to try to deliver that business value.
Got it. So just to summarize this topic, how do you then, Pranay, tread a balance between capturing those efficiencies and passing on those to the customers, right? There's a demand from customers always to pass on as much as efficiencies as possible. But that means that you are going to see a drop in your revenues, drop in your account sizes, client sizes, maybe for a short term at least. So how do you tread that balance?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think thinking of it from the standpoint of the service provider, as you're saying, right? I think that if we can sort of, flip it to a value-based conversation and leading with the idea of how will I create value for you? How will I make your customer engagement superior? How will I drive operational efficiencies, whether that's in your sales and marketing or production or risk or underwriting, distribution, whatever it be, and so on. And then sort of work towards that. And I think there's probably, through the efficiency process, probably gains for everyone, right? Certainly, I think just staying in the T&M model, okay, there is going to be clear ask for, efficiency pass back, because everyone's aware of, what's happening and what's possible. And then unless that number stays the same, the number of people that are, deployed, or it grows, it is going to be, it can translate to, lower volumes. But I think that this is also an opportunity for us to transform our business model. It's to be an opportunity for us to transform how we lead and how we work with our clients here.
Got it. Sure. So moving on to the next topic of how enterprises choose the tools or technology or services when they are getting into AI, right? So Jason, you and Databricks promote a more open kind of a system compared to, let's say, AWS, which has a different business model. And so when you have conversations with partners on this, how do you see the acceptance for a system that, or an open model that a Databricks has versus somebody like an AWS or somebody else might have in terms of implementation of AI?
I think from a Databricks perspective, we've been pretty committed to a couple of different tenets for us. One is open source, and it's not usually open source, but just been an open model, open formats, open ecosystem. So we think that's incredibly important. I don't know that I wouldn't compare us to an AWS standpoint. AWS absolutely embraces Databricks as a great partner, and we work very well on AWS. Actually, we were founded on AWS, so we're one of those great stories. 13 years ago was a technology that built itself on AWS. I think where we would maybe more compare ourselves maybe to an AWS or to others that are more of a proprietary software. That's where we try to compete there, right? We think that organizations, a couple different tenets I wanted to go through, right? We're open, we're on the cloud, and we believe in unification, right? And the idea of data and analytics being unified in one platform. So we don't like the idea of cobbling together different solutions from different technologies in order to make that story work. We think the data and the AI should be together. We believe that we continue to see that enterprises continue to invest their new projects on the cloud, not on-prem. So we have no desire to compete with or try to provide a way for our customers to stay on-prem. We're trying to get them to the cloud, and that therefore, our three biggest partners are Microsoft, AWS, and GCP. So for us, like I said, I think the differentiation that we're bringing is that idea of open source, open formats, open environments, open ecosystem. We continue to say that we'll work with all of the technologies that you've already invested in. So if you look at our ISV partnership program, like there's very rarely do we want to come in and try to replace things that you've already bought. If you've already invested in those technologies, we're delighted to make sure that our platform works with those technologies as well. So for us, that's how we think. You asked the question about kind of maybe a full cloud native stack. And I would say whether that's GCP, AWS, or Microsoft, we think we're finding customers willing to adopt us because of some of those fundamental principles we have. But I would offer one more thing that I think, and I know Bruce is out there that had a different opinion on this one. I was just talking to him, but we see so many of our large enterprise customers embracing multi-cloud. Right? So they don't want to necessarily be on a full stack from one of those three cloud providers. They know that they're going to have users and stakeholders in their organizations that are going to work on multiple clouds. So they'd like having Databricks as a data and AI platform that can work across multiple clouds.
Got it. And one of the trends that we see also in this space is from both enterprises and services companies is enterprises companies are now trying to not just be a license provider, but solve customer problems directly on their own, building a little bit more of the services muscle, if we call it. And we see services companies also investing in IP either organically or through acquisitions, right? So Pratik, how do you see this playing out in the long term, right? How important is IP creation or moving towards IP important for a services company?
Yeah. So look, we're big users of the Databricks platform, okay, and the infrastructure that they provide, and how they enable this whole environment, right? And it really enables a company like us to deliver what we can deliver. The place where our focus on IP is in the area of business applications. Right, so we are not in the space of developing the infrastructure or the infrastructure applications, and I think we rely on a partner like Databricks who really makes it very easy for us to deliver that. But as we think of our value proposition to our clients in the future, I do believe that the business application IP is going to be critical. Developing a very deep sense of what drives value for this client, what drives value for their customers, what will keep them competitive, and being able to capture that by way of IP, whether that's a product or that's a process or that's just a way of doing things that enables them to realize that value faster.
Got it. And the reason I asked this is because probably not so much here, but in India there is a lot of chatter around whenever an IT services company is named right now is, why is Infosys giving back dividends? Why is Infosys not investing in R&D? Right? So while I have my own take on that, but what do you think in general? Should there be more investments in R&D for a services company?
So look, we at Fractal, we invest about 7% of our revenue back into some form of R&D. So we've got just pure research. We've got a department that just does pure research. So we released a very nifty, reasoning model called Fathom, which actually maxed the IIT JEE's test, and it was ranking very high on Hugging Face. It is ranking very high on Hugging Face, high number of downloads. One of the top 5 applications. So that's fundamental research, and then our papers have been presented at NeurIPS and various other places. So that's one area that we're investing in. But then we're also investing in applied side. Building applications, building products, and so on. And I think it's critical. And I do think that just if you take a lens of Indian companies, I think that the Indian companies invest too little on R&D, and I think that certainly a lot more investment is required, and that's what I would say.
So Jason, from your point of view, how do you look at this where services companies are building more IPs, building more? Do you see that as a competition in some sense?
No, I don't see it as a competition. I see it as an opportunity to collaborate. I'm confident that service organizations, I think Lori said it before, right, that she had to get her board comfortable with, we're going to make some investments now that might get marginalized later by other technology companies that bring those to market. But you got to be moving fast now in order to help your customers today. I feel very confident that our partners aren't going to try to out-invest Databricks from an R&D standpoint. They're going to work with us to try to understand where can we work along the edges to make sure that Databricks product can be extended. That's the best way for our partnerships to be working together around those lines.
So maybe I can just add to that, right? If you think of it in a number of layers, right? There is the infrastructure, which is the cloud, right? Then they talk about the chips, NVIDIA and the likes, right? Then you talk about, so that's all the compute stuff, right? And then you've got the LLMs, right? And, I guess Databricks would be part of the infrastructure in a very substantial way. And then you talk about applications on top of that, right? So someone like Fractal, we operate in the application space, correct? And I don't see us competing with any of the other 3 layers at all. I mean, we neither have the investment nor it's just not part of our strategy. So I don't see that. I think we're always going to be collaborating with all the others in the space. Yeah.
Sure.
For us right now, we're really interested in service providers that can do, I think, one of 2 things the primary things. Number one, investment in converting your methodologies into tools or assets that can help accelerate migrations. Like that's the biggest cost. And so we have 2 things we can do. We can either invest our money, just pay for the services in order to make that happen, or we can encourage others in the marketplace to help us make those migrations go faster so they don't cost as much. So that's one way in which we see our service providers really being able to invest there in a place that maybe we can't invest ourselves. So I mean, that to me is kind of the biggest thing. And then secondarily, it is about what we're investing big in now is from a agentic system standpoint is something we call agent bricks. And it's really kind of is going out into the market and creating a catalog of all the different tasks that can be done and trying to break those down to the smallest little bricks. And so we're not going to go out and create all those bricks. Right? That's not what we have time to do, but we can create the framework and we can create the platform where service providers, or in some cases, even our customers who want to be the leader in their industry, can create those bricks to help do the things that are important to them. So again, that's not competitive, that's complementary, and that's what we want to be working.
I think each is helping build the other's business, because I think the more that Databricks invests in their platform, making it more robust, putting more utilities on it, and just making it more versatile, it enables us to go and build more applications on top of that. And I think the more we do of that, there's more consumption on their platform. So I think it's actually, it's very symbiotic.
Sure. I mean, interestingly, you said Databricks is not going to build all the bricks. So that's a good way to put it. Yeah. So I want to just double down specifically on the partnership model now. We have touched upon it multiple times, right? I mean, for many years, it was a very simple model. Companies like Databricks or others got the technology, services firms just help them scale it, right? And that was a simple model that was there. So how do you think that is changing right now? Is it going to be more of this, where we invest more in some co-IP creation, some shared kind of an offerings, or how do you think in general it's going to change, Jason?
Yeah, I'd be careful to say there's going to be more or less of that. I think that has always gone on to some extent in mature markets. And I think that's one of the things I would highlight is that the answer is it depends. I think new technologies are going to continue to be the product of investments made by product companies. The technology companies are going to continue to invest in those things. Where the co-investment can come in is in the evolution of that application once it becomes mature. Because I don't think you're going to find many service companies that are willing to try to create a market with an investment in technology. That's what they're dependent upon the technology companies to do. So I don't know. You asked the question, will it be more? And I implied more or less. And I don't think it'll be more or less. I think it'll continue to happen, but it's going to happen as markets mature or as technologies mature, and that's where you're going to find the opportunity for two organizations to come together and co-invest.
Got it. So I'll just put a slight twist on it for you, Panay, right? There's a lot of discussion right now in build versus buy, right? With Gen AI, there is some chatter that it's probably better to build your applications now than it was better, rather than building it on top of another platform. So do you hear those conversations, and what's your take on that?
Look, has Gen AI made it easier to build applications? I think the answer is yes. But we also believe, and just validated by our own experience, that AI is not enough to generate value from AI. Okay, it is, in fact, the models are, in a sense, commodity. Everyone has access to them, and one may do better than the other in some circumstances, etc. But if you're starting from, if you haven't applied that before, you're going to see improvement in value regardless, right? I think the question is, how do you bring all of these things together? How do you frame the problem? How do you frame the vision? How do you start with, what is the value? Get into the details of the process, figure out where AI is going to come in, and do things better than they were done before. And then what data is required, how we're going to design it, how we're going to deploy it. I think there's another thing that I want to talk about, is that in the last 2 or 3 years, AI has got consumerized, because we heard, ChatGPT got released, right? So now as consumers, we started using AI, but that is only generative AI. The traditional discriminative AI, machine learning, that's been in play for the last 15 years, right? So that is also in play, and people are trying to drive value from there. So I think if the organization can bring all of these elements together, right, then certainly I think they can build and they can drive, right? It's a question of whether, the organization has the processes and the talent to bring everyone together. What we know for a fact is that you're not going to get value from AI if one thinks that, okay, I'll put together a team of data scientists and I can start getting value from AI. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, specifically, if I had to ask, like, is it easier to now build on your own from, like, say, scratch compared to building on top of other platforms? Is that the conversation that you are hearing? Like earlier, it was built on top of Salesforce, built on top of AWS. Is that flipping to saying that we can now do it without them?
We are not coming across that yet, at least. I mean, I can't say what's going to happen in 5 years, right? But at this point of time, no. We are certainly extending on top of the enterprise applications and software that our clients have, whether that is, Databricks, or whether that's, Salesforce, or whether that's SAP, ERP, whatever it may be, Microsoft.
Okay, got it. So we have spoken a lot of good things till now. So I just want to ask a very straightforward question here. What is the one uncomfortable truth that nobody is talking about right now when it comes to data and AI? Same question to both of you.
I think uncomfortable truth. I think we've said it before. I think the uncomfortable truth is that yes, this is going to affect every part of our lives. And where Pranay was making a comment there about his children, and I think about my children, and just watching how access to the internet, access to social media has changed their childhood. It made far different than my own childhood. That I'm obviously, those are the two things I can compare. So when I think about how AI is coming, in whatever form you want to talk about it, I think that's an uncomfortable truth. This thing is going to really change, not just our lives in the world. I think it's going to change the human experience and human development. So I think that's, for me, that's an uncomfortable truth that we need to deal with.
So I agree with you, Jason, completely on that there is a profound change coming in what it will mean to be human. So if industrialization and made human strength irrelevant, the question is that will AI make human intelligence irrelevant? Okay. And it's something, that it is certainly a question that we'll have to deal with, right? But that's very much, I think, at a macro and humanity level and stuff like that. I think if we just come down very simply to, organizations, what is the one uncomfortable truth at an organization level from data and AI perspective? I think people are talking about what is your AI strategy, what is your data strategy? And I feel that is probably not the right question. I think the right question would be, and we very often hear that question, right? I think the right question is that, what is your business strategy and how is AI going to support that business strategy? And knowing what AI can do for you, how should your business strategy evolve?
So my last question, I think we're almost out of time. Last question again to both of you is, what is the one big bold bet that your company is going to take in the next 5 years? I mean, you don't have to be very specific, but in generic, what direction do you think is the entire data and AI space going to go? And what is the one big bold bet you think is going to help you get there in 5 years?
I'll go first again. Here we go. I'll let you have you can wrap us up then. So for me, I think, again, speaking from a Databricks standpoint, I think that was the question from a company standpoint. I would say our big bet is going to be, I'll just say, more data. I think one of the things that I'm proud to be at Databricks, and I've heard many customers over the years tell us they've been excited about what Databricks has been able to help them do with their big data. But more recently, what we've heard is that's nice, but that's not all of our data. And that's not even our most important data. And so more recently, I would say that we've made some announcements around relationships that we have, two of them that I would highlight. One of them is with Palantir. That's not a go-to-market agreement, but that is an integration agreement that allows us to work together with their data. So it allows our customers that have data with Palantir as well as with Databricks to be able to bring those two together. Second biggest one I'll highlight is SAP. So that's a pretty big relationship for us, and that is now bringing in ERP data into the data intelligence platform. That's the name of our platform. You asked the question, what's the big bet going to be? I'm just going to answer, it's more data. So we're not stopping there with ERP data. We're going to find ways to help our customers bring in their CDP data. We're going to help them bring in their SIM data from security applications, and we're going to keep going from there. So I think that's the big bet for us, is to just continue to make sure that when we talk about Databricks as a unified data and analytics platform, that we're allowing enterprises to have all of their data on that data and AI platform.
More data, less bricks. Sorry. Okay. Pranay.
Firstly, I think 5 years is a really long time out. Okay, we very little idea what's going to happen in 5 years down the road. But I think the immediate bet is how can we create $1 billion of value for every client that we work with, and then how much of our fortunes can we link to that act of value creation for the client. So I think that's the big bet for us. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think, we are out of time. So thank you, both of you. I hope it was interesting for everyone. Thanks a lot.